can get a list like that wherever you want it. And then reach out to those realtors, and you better be a cash buyer, because those are also realtors that have been around other investors. They know what they're dealing with. And if you call up and say, I want to get an FHA mortgage on this house that has no roof, you're done. They're not going to trust me. So that's step one. And that becomes a lead source. Let them know what you want and be prepared to act. You have to be prepared to act, because if they call you, they have a good deal, it's a legitimate good deal, and you're not ready to move on it, you don't know what you're doing, they're not calling you yet. They already have a database of people. But you can just data mine that information. If you already have Trend and so forth, you go on Trend, it's so easy to just pull. Trend is the local MLS service for anybody that's not a realtor. I carry a license, so I know. So you go on Trend and you just have a list. I have all the investor-friendly realtors in the area. I make sure they know who I am. I want them, because when they have a buyer that they need to close on a deal and they need funding, I want them to talk to me, right? So I make sure they know who I am. The other thing you guys can do, so that's the on-site, the on-market stuff. And there are a lot of deals in the market. I see them every single day. Like, people say there's no deals in the market. Even in this incredibly low inventory market, there are still deals every single day. So the law of abundance stands true. If you say there are no deals out there, the real thing you're saying is, I don't know how to market. Okay? And it's okay. Understand that. But there are deals out there in every single market, and you're just not marketing hard enough, or you don't have enough of a deal source. Whether it's, like I said, an investor-friendly realtor, a sheriff sale as a deal source, mailers. Every Bill, your home investor's guide. Do you guys do your own personal marketing, or do they market for you?
They do it all.
Okay, so one of the things I know they do, they used to do the big billboards, right? They still do. So they also do a lot of mailers. Mailers are huge. Every investor does them. Every guy that I know that still actively, especially flips, because they constantly need a resource of inventory. It's not like typically landlords that they don't have to aggressively pay their bills because they've accumulated over time. But a flipper is almost a good one. Is almost always going to have mailers. I keep mailers very simple, very very to the point. Okay, we used to do to the tune of I don't remember what we maxed out at when we wholesale. This was us wholesaling, but it was like, I don't know, 10 or 20,000 a month, right? It's a lot of mailers. This isn't 50 mailers and then waiting for phone calls. So I'm going to go over the keys to mailers. It's actually not what the actual postcard looks like, even though a lot of people get stuck on that. They get stuck on the message. What do I send? What do I send? I'm ready to pull the trigger. Nope, not that. It's not that. The list is very important because you want to know how your dollars are traveling through the mail, what's my response rate. So the list and the competition. The list that you're going to get is very important. I'll tell you 3 lists in a minute. The list, the message that you're putting on the postcard, and the consistency of the mailer. Okay, so one, the list. 3 killer lists. Probate, get probate list, mail the hell out of that. 2, divorce list, and 3, the eviction list. Okay, those 3 lists will net you more deals, I guarantee, than you can do, and then you can make a living off those 3 lists if they're active. We made a living off the probate list. I remember we would get the best deals off probate. Because, and I always say this, I say we're not really looking for houses in this game. We're looking for problems attached to houses, right? Because the person that has you see that boarded up house with all the overgrown weeds, you're like, oh, I just want to buy that property, it's in such a good area, and I just got to talk to the owner, how come they don't want to sell it, or I got to buy it from them. They have to want to sell it. No, they don't. They could be a billionaire in the middle of Texas that doesn't even know they own it, and you're trying to mail this person relentlessly. They don't care. You're looking for a problem that is attached to a property first. So those 3 items that I just said are problems that are typically attached to properties. So now you're mailing these, right? Your message, the message we always use, partially because I was lazy, and partially because it just worked really well. Somewhere in between lies the answer. Go on click2mail.com. Click2mail.com, that's what I use. There's a billion other services you can use. Yellow postcard. My name is Ian Walsh. I am a cash buyer. I will close in 30 days. I'm looking for a house that needs TLC. Here's my name, here's my email. That's the whole mailing piece. That's the message, okay? It's not some fancy corporate look and this and that. No, it's just people want to call people they can talk to immediately. These are not people that want to talk, get connected to an answering service. They don't want to talk to your assistant. They want to talk to a person they feel they can connect with. So now you have a mailer out, you're waiting for your responses. Guess what? First month happens, nobody calls you back. Oh man, the mailer failed, this whole real estate thing doesn't work, I don't know what to do. Right? No, that's not what happened. What happened was the timing of your marketing didn't match the problem that was trying to be solved by the person that was picking it up at the moment. I like to use divorce. So take a divorce. If you don't mail over, I don't know what the average span of divorce is, but let's say it's 6 months. Okay, I always do my mailers for 6 months just because again, efficiency. I don't feel like researching it. 6 months seems to be efficient enough to pay my bills. So I mail my mail for 6 months. The reason I do each month every month is because I'm in the middle of the divorce. Right, month 1, sign the papers, honey. Great, done. She's mad at me, I'm mad at her. We're not even thinking about the house. We're worried about the kids, we're worried about this, we're worried about whatever else it is. They're not thinking about the house. So that postcard goes right, it's white noise, it's gone. Right, you mail it, month 1. Month 2, same thing. We're talking to attorneys. Attorneys are starting to figure it out. Attorneys are in between. We have month 3. This is the month that your mailer meets the timing of the problem because they say, okay, we don't hate each other as much right now. The attorneys are here and they've settled it. It's time to sell the house. Who do we sell to? The timing has to meet the problem when it's ready to be solved. That's why you mail with consistency. That's why one mailer isn't the answer. Can you get a do all for mailer? Sure, but you greatly increase your chances when you do multiple. Does that make sense?
Are you changing the message each time, or is it the same message?
Sometimes I do. I'm really not like. There's probably a better way to do it. There's probably I know actually my ex-business partner used to do like a 6-piece mailer or 8-piece mailer where we things like. Step 1 was this part of, and then there's like setups. Like you do like a 6 to 8 piece mailer with different messages every time. Personally, I just.
You're still in the lazy mode.
Lazy, efficient. I call it efficiency mode.
Yeah.
But I would say you can be more effective and get further bang for your buck. That's for sure. Than what I've done, but I've certainly gotten plenty of results.
You mailing it out yourself, or you doing it for a mailing house?
I do it. I've always for like
bulk mailer.
Yeah, through click2mail.com.
Oh, they do that.
Yeah, it's just like I just upload the list with Excel, type the message in, and then just hit send.
And you can buy the list from them as well.
I think they do, but I don't get mine from there. I think they do. I mean, data mining lists is really easy. Like if you guys have an MLS and stuff, you can go in the public records. And you can if you think your way backwards through a problem, you don't have to use those 3 lists I just gave you. You could go non-owner occupied, out of state, equity, and under $100,000 sales price. So you can check those boxes in the back of the MLS in your public record and say, okay, give me everybody in this zip code that has this. So I'm sure. Click-to-mail probably has a similar function, but you're just trying to take a data set and see where there might be a problem attached to it that then has equity in a property. So like a non-owner occupied out of state was a very common mailer. In fact, it was great for management.
So there's a box on trend that says equity?
No. That's me identifying equity. So I know if I'm in an area that says kind of the same concept as the investor realtor. So if I'm like, look, I know everything in this area goes for $300,000. I want to know anybody that's got a note for $100,000 or less here. I got some spread there. Or a dollar deed, maybe a dollar deed or something. So there's a ton of options out there. The trend is really, really fantastic. So in fact, it was the only reason I got it to get my license to begin with. I didn't really tell people. I mean, I don't have to. I don't do sales on the MLS, but I would never want to give up my license only because that access and time is so important. So that's how we find deals. Any questions about finding deals? If you can't, you'll find more deals in those 2 ways that I just told you that you can do it here. All right, yeah.
How often do you mail? Monthly?
I mail once a month. Certain types of problems, though, have different kinds of frequency. For instance, like an eviction. If you get the eviction mailing, so the eviction, right, you decide to file the eviction, you have 30 days typically to go to court, depending on what county you're in. So I know within 30 days, you're probably the most heated part of this problem at that point. So you're probably going to maybe mail it 2 or even 3 times between the moment the eviction is filed to the court date. You have a 30-day window, and then there's still problems after. You still don't want to deal with it, but your hotbed might be there. I don't know the statistics on divorce or probate like that, but there's certain types of problems where you have hot windows to kind of hit. Other than that, the standard ones was always once a month.
Is there a certain date that you find one better?
Not that I was able to track. So there very well maybe. I don't know. I just kind of always sent them. Just try to not send them around holidays because they get logged up in the mail. But I mean, mailers stick around too. I remember there was one I got 5 years later. I got a phone call and said, "Hey, I've been holding onto your mailer." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, 5 years. So they hang around in people's mailboxes and stuff. Once you get that ball rolling and the momentum going, it's important. Yeah.
Did you say what you sent out? Postcards?
Postcards, yeah, I send postcards. Lots of
Regular size or the big? Or?
I mix it up, but the best ones I find are just if you go to Click to Mail, you do the black and white, matte, finish. You can do green, white, or yellow. Yellow always just seems to have the best. I don't know, it's just like an eye catching or what. I guess I could say there's definitely, I'm sure you can dive super deep into mailers and get better than I am at them. I just know I made a living on them. And I know a lot of investors that do, and I recommend them. So like I wouldn't go overanalyze it. I would say identify your list, understand the message, understand frequency that you're going to mail out, and go.
Postcard over envelope?
Postcard. I do postcard. We've done envelopes. We've done ones where you put something in the envelope. Those have a great open rate. The key was that we were just doing it over and over and over again. So,
what's the typical size? Sorry.
yeah, what's that?
What's the typical size postcard?
So I think it's 4 by 6. We typically, I like to mail. I think it's 5'8". It's usually it's a little bit oversized. I do. Runs you like 50 or 60 cents a piece. So I'll click to mail. If you have it done in like 20 minutes, like every month I still do mailers for my. That's how I find deals. Any other questions? I'm happy to tell anybody about finding deals.
List?
Yeah.
Where do you get your list?
Okay, so some of them I can tell you, some I can't. Some of my can't because I get somebody in trouble, not because I don't want to tell you. I'm pretty much know the book, but I can't get somebody in trouble. So if you're a realtor, without a doubt, you pull plenty of lists from that public record. Like if you start digging into like the items that you can check and the things you spit out, non-owner occupied, identifying the equity, like that's an easy one. Probate, we used to get a list from usleadlist.com. This was in 2009. I don't even know if it exists. It was usleadlist.com. And what they would do is there's a guy there named Lance. Try to ask for Lance when you call him. I don't know. The guy would sell us once a quarter the probate list. And that was an updated, accurate probate list. We paid $1,200 for that list, and it was killer. I mean, those deals. Well, a little irony in that. I really didn't.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that.
U.S. need list?
U.S. lead list. Yeah, you can also do. I know ListSource. I think it is .com. Is that ListSource.com is a fantastic data mining.
I'm the guy that did it for a couple months, nothing happened, and I stopped. Now I feel like an idiot. I did the press of the program, I followed it all, and I did like 3 months, 2 months.
You never got a phone call?
Nothing. But I did, you know what, you're right, I got a phone call, but not for the probate list, for the other one. I don't know why I didn't connect.
How many were you mailing? How many pieces?
Thousands, couple thousand. I was just starting. I got the program and I did it.
Yeah.
It worked out easy. There's companies out there to do it for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just and there's slow times too. Sometimes you're like, gosh, like the thing I always say about marketing is this, right? Like when you have a low lead count, you're always trying to buff your lead pipeline. If you have a low lead count, the answer is spend more money on marketing. Okay, when you have a high lead count and you're doing deals, spend more money on marketing. Like there is no time to not be spending money on marketing. Tracking your marketing dollars is very important though, because you guys know how much each lead is costing you. So there were definitely times when we were like, oh gosh, like we had 2 sets of mailers go out for 2 months, and like there are no calls. And it's like blind faith and understanding. After you've done it enough times, you're like, just keep mailing and they hit. I mean, I'm telling you, like the guys that we could, some of the guys I can think of off the top of my head, a lot of you guys probably know off the internet and so forth, they mail the hell out of their lists. I mean, $20,000, $30,000 a month in mailers. These guys are netting $1.5 million doing flips and wholesales and so forth, but that's the level they hit. So it's serious levels, yeah.
How do you follow up on all those phone calls? So say you're yelling out 20,000. Obviously, you can't accept that many phone calls. How do you? So it's time to. How do you follow up on those phone calls, and how do you weed through them fast enough?
So scaling is an issue. It depends what level your business is at, right? So I'm not advocating that anybody go out today and spend $20,000 or $30,000 on a mailing list. I'm just saying that people invest that kind of money into it. It's a scaling situation, right? Because you're like, that's a really good question. In fact, don't go out and spend $20,000 or $30,000 a month on mailing and say, Ian, it didn't work. That's not what it's about. What I'm saying is like, okay, start with like 1,000 or something that you can afford. And what Daniel's asking is like, well, I get 400 phone calls. I'm just pissing money away, right? Because I can't filter through all those leads. You don't go from 0 to that. You know your market. You start getting deals. You start being able to take on people underneath you that can then filter those leads. Like there's a couple wholesalers in town that I know that they're at that level, and they have 3 or 4 people like in different training positions under them. But it took them time to get to that position to do, where they're taking 300 or 400 phone calls a month, filtering through the leads and so forth. Initially scale up to that position. That takes time. Honestly, I've done it both ways, where I run by myself solo as an investor, and we run, like the management company's got 20, 30 people working there. Each type of investing has its own thing to be desired. Everybody says they want to be somebody's boss. Not until you're somebody's boss, you really don't even want to be somebody's boss. I can tell you that much. It's pretty rolling solo and making a lot of money is a good. There's something to be said about that.
Okay. So did you use scripts when you got the call?
Okay, so that's a good question. When we were wholesaling, we did. Now, like, if I were, for like lending purposes or something, but my ex-business partner still, he does a good bit of phone calls. He just knows. He gets a phone call, he knows 3 questions he's going to ask me. I'm coming out or I'm not to the property. So initially, though, yeah, sure. And if you're training somebody, absolutely. Like, they've got to go through, do we have equity? Are we wasting time? Would say in a very nice manner. When are you looking to sell? Do you want a contract? So initially, yes. It's very much worth it. And then at some point, you'll get to know your market so well that you just can feel the when it's on that one.
So in the Philly market, you can have a neighborhood where one block is selling at a certain price range, and then 2 blocks over is a drop, and you're not interested in that block. So if you know that you want to, farm just a couple of square blocks, would you recommend just sending mailers to everybody on that one specific block or 2 blocks, opposed to,
I don't want to go, so it depends what I'm trying to do. Am I trying to rent or am I trying to flip? I'm trying to flip on those areas. You know what you're talking about, South Philly, Point Breeze, all those areas have that. My answer to you is I want to be, if I'm flipping especially, I want to be where there's owner-occupied properties, and I don't want to be on the other one. So I would isolate those areas. If I'm trying to buy a cash flow property, though, I'm probably flipping that and going to where there's not owner-occupied. So I'm probably, depending on what I'm trying to achieve, I'm either choosing one section of that city or the other, depending on, and you're right, like South Philly, like people call me up all the time, they're like, oh, I got a property for $400,000, 3-story, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, that's 3 blocks away. That's $300,000 off from what yours is worth. That's a huge difference. People are like, that's so close, it's right around the corner. No, it's not on the block, right? That's huge. So to answer your question in short, you want to isolate the 2 sets of areas and decide what your end goal is as an investor. If you're trying to buy and hold or you're trying to buy and split.
right. So if you target a block, just say you want to buy, houses are at the highest rate in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Would you send out mailers to that specific block regardless if they just bought the house or not? Maybe hopefully the next door neighbor knows the person that owned that house and can get in touch with them or something like
So that's a blanket mailer that you're talking about, which is more of just like a zip code based mailer. We tend to find more like things that are related to date. Yeah, so like if I know I want to be in a certain zip code in a certain area, I'd probably then go further and isolate like at least out of state. Are they out of state? Are they non-owner occupied? I want to identify at least that at the very least to know that there's at least some reason to be motivated that you may not want to deal with this property or that it's a hassle for you. But you can do blanket mailers. I know guys that do that too. Some really good wholesalers in the city do that too. They have like little combinations of different stuff. I personally always like to at least know there was a reason I mailed that out beyond just a blanket mailer. And you're right. Somebody can hand it to their aunt who's selling a house next door. Certainly. I just like to increase my odds of that phone call. There's really no right or wrong. Just,
Once you receive a response back from your mailer, what are some of the questions I can ask to vet that prospective buyer?
So the best thing. So this goes even deeper. When we're in that phone call, it's really important to be a realtor and have that trend access because there's a very good chance that when I get that phone call, you're on trend. Decide what's your address? They don't know that you are running your comp right then and there and deciding. They're like, hey, and then you ask them. You first want to ask them how much you want to sell their house for because you look at a house and they say, you're running your numbers. You know the address right now. Bang. You know that you're going to be around $100,000 for this house. You get in your market that well. You've got it in your market that well. You know you're going to be in that 100. There's a lot of extra work, 75. Not a lot of work, maybe 125. You're somewhere between 75 and 125. While you're talking to them, just by asking the address, you've got to know your market that well. It's because you're inside of trend, not on one of those free sites saying this is the guess as to what this is worth. In trend, you got to know how to comp. So once you're in there, you determine the address. The next question is, what are you trying to sell your house for? Or how much are you looking to get for your house? If you know the house is worth $300 retail and it doesn't have a roof and there may or may not be a dead body in the basement, you're not going to pay $300. So if they tell you it's probably worth $280, you're like, oh no, we're like 140 apart. It's probably not going to work. I can send you a good realtor to list it. Same phone call goes, I don't know, maybe like 150. So now I know best case scenario I'm going to be at 125, maybe 75, and they're at 150, and I know this house is a problem. When can I see you? So when it really starts with that first question: are we within striking distance or not? Determined by where you have to be because you're on the MLS where you're getting that phone call. And then, I mean, the good ones, you go then. Like, hey, I'll be there in like an hour of the contract, and I'm ready. I'll close in 30 days. I'm telling you, the best ones will go like that. Yeah, you know, right? Yeah. So, does that answer your question? I mean, that's a big one right there. The other one I would get into, if you're wholesaling or you're flipping properties that are like 15 or like they're like $10 or $15,000 properties, nothing wrong with those. You make a lot of money cash flowing those. You have to be a lot more conscious of liens and mortgages against properties. So it's something that's like $100,000, $150,000. Somebody really screwed up and they tell you it's free and clear, and then all of a sudden $150,000 gas bill pops up. Okay, they really screwed something up. Very rare. But on a $10,000 or $15,000 property that's had some trouble, hasn't been tended to, it's pretty easy to blow that deal out of the water based on liens and mortgages. So you probably then ask those questions as follow-up questions as to how much they're asking for, because they don't want to waste a lot of time running down there to find $20,000 in liens.
What about vacant lots? That's pretty much dead now. Everybody bought it.
I know guys that show up at our office the other day. There's like 80 vacant lots. I'm buying them every week at the sheriff's sales. Like, I don't know what to do with them, buddy, but they look great. There's a lot of people going after them. I can tell you right now, vacant lots. So the end game for a vacant lot is building, right?
Yeah.
A lot of guys in my position, a lot of the bankers right now. I mean, like I said, we're getting closer to the top. I don't know if we're there, but when the cranes go up, put your money in your wallet. You don't go out and buy. So people are hesitant for new construction at the moment. A lot of banks are pulling money from new construction. It's pretty hard to get that kind of money right now. Maybe in 2009 it was easy, but right now it's
What does that mean for us, like flippers and buy and hold? When you see like Point Breeze where they're just building on every open lot they find.
Yeah, so you got to know.
It's telling us something, right?
Yeah, it's a hot area, without a doubt. Somebody's gonna get hurt there. Somebody's made a fortune. Somebody will get hurt. The way that works, typically in those hot areas, Brewery Town, Point Breeze, Fish Town, you want to not be the guy trying to create the market, right? Because what happens is you've got a little ball here and it's starting to expand. The guys in the middle, it's really hard for them to lose that value because it's expanding outwards. Everybody wants to be here. The further you go away from that position, the riskier it gets, right? So when you get into the fringes and you go, I'm on the outside, well, at some point when the market says we're done going up, the guy on the outside is cut off. It's over. So those guys on the outside are making fortunes at the moment. It's the riskiest position to play in a market. It's speculative buying. Those guys are on the outside still buying a house in Point Breeze for $20,000 and somehow selling that a block off from where it shouldn't be selling to somebody for like $300,000. Holy cow, that's a lot of money. Yeah, it is. Have 10 of those running at one time and then come back to me when the market dips. Like, it's over. The guy where you want to be, if you're going to be in a hot area, is inside that bubble. And it's going to be harder to find those deals, especially the hot ones, because everybody wants them. But you want to be safely inside that circle, not on the fringe. The fringes will kill you. I watched it in 2009. It was like, you got to be a cowboy to go after those, or have unbelievably deep pockets, because you got to sustain serious loss and take a huge risk if you're not right.
What do you think about investing outside of those hot areas and more established areas where they're not shooting up, kind of, I won't say stagnant, but just, just regular kind of inflation?
I'm all about it. All about it. So safe is good, right? We're in this business. If you're not in this business to make money, whatever you're doing, you're in the wrong business. You're not in business, right? So safe is hedging risk, is protecting risk. Like, what can you, so there are very safe areas to do that. And I love those areas. I tell people when they're first time flipping, you've never flipped a property, don't go do your new construction project as your first project at $150,000. Anybody ever done like $150,000 renovation?
I did 100, but I haven't gone to
100? Okay. And anybody got the same people that just raised their hand also done like a $25,000, $30,000 renovation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. There's a difference in managing that job, am I right? Unless you have some unbelievably talented construction manager you don't have to show off. I only know two guys that have ever pulled that off. There's a huge difference in execution level, which means there's a huge difference in risk that you're taking on. So you're risking your money based for what? I always say, like, go to Mount Airy, go to Overbrook. Like, go to these areas that Daniel was just asking about. Like, Mount Airy and Overbrook back in 2000, in fact, the best flippers I knew, that's where they made their living.
Overbrook on City Line Avenue?
Yeah, dude. 1915, 11931.
Stable.
Still there. Wow.
I just sold one on Waynewood for $250, 608.
Stable. First time home buyers. I remember the guys that I'm out there, he's been doing three real estate cycles. That means I survived 1 crash, 2 crashes, 3 crashes. Flipping houses, making millions. How do you do it? Just flips in Mount Airy, and he knows exactly what he's going to pay. He knows every house there. The deal with Mount Airy or Overbrook, it's like, I mean, there's some isolated reason, but most likely you're always going to be on a market crash, maybe like 135 to like 145, and on a market appreciation, like 150 60 to like 190 on average. I know there's houses that go in and outside of that value, but it doesn't really vary compared to, like I said earlier, like a fish town. Oh, I just bought something for 30 grand and I can sell it for 400. That's volatility. That's scary. So stay in those areas. I'm huge about that. And then just go, instead of doing the $100,000 flip, do 3 of the $30,000 profits. Protect your money. Stay in the game. You only lose your money one time. All your money one time. Yeah.
As far as buying and flipping, what would be the ideal amount of time to buy and flip?
Like how long should it take? Depends on the size of the project, but like the one I just described, not like one of those 100, 150,000. I mean, I don't know. Guys in the room who did those big projects would take you buy, sell, go through permits, all the fun stuff. Big project. Like, what's the longest project you've ever worked through?
18 months.
18 months, right? A long time. Right, a big project. But on a $30,000, $45,000 flip, a really efficient crew. I know efficient crews that can get it done in 4 to 6 weeks. Now that is cruising. Cruising, yeah. But I have met guys. I didn't believe it, but I had funding out on
Full renovation.
full renovation. It's incredible. I'm like, I just did this loan with you. How does the house look like this? It's incredible. But he did. I mean, he just around the clock. So I usually tell people the best flippers that we work with are in and out of deals, start to finish in 5 to 7 months. That's your sweet spot. If you're in and out, you probably did things right. You didn't make too many mistakes. And it probably wasn't now that doesn't go for like $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 renovation. Like guys have $300,000 renovations going on. Those are going to take more than 5 to 7 months. But bread and butter stuff, 5 to 7 months. Any other questions?
From settlement to settlement.
7 to 7. That's right.
Can you also touch on suburbs?
Suburbs, I love the suburbs. They're easy for us to comp. Cities the tricky part. The suburbs are just easy because you have subdivisions and school districts, right? Stick within those and then house types. Are you in Levittown or are you in Bucks County? Where are you? Is it a 4-bed, 2-bath? Because if it is, it's 2,000 to 3,000 square foot. You're somewhere between $45,000 to $60,000 renovation. Those are your numbers. It's like very cookie cutter. They're a little harder to find deals. I don't want to say harder, they're just fewer. There's a lot of volume, a lot of density in the city, right? There's a lot more people per square inch kind of thing. The cities, the suburbs, you don't have that. But I have plenty of clients that are just like, they flip 50 or 60 houses a year in Bucks County. There's like 4 or 5 of these guys, so they're doing hundreds and hundreds of deals between like 4 or 5 of them. And there's more deals out there that can be done. So there's plenty of deals out there. They're just a little bit different mentality to find.
But you're not worried as you are in the city of the market falling out because there's too much speculation, correct? So it's a different situation that you're looking at and blending.
So it's areas of the city. There's certain areas of the city that are just as safe as anywhere else. It's certain areas of the city that make me concerned. I mean, there's certain areas of Point Breeze, Fishtown, that really got to know which block you're on. That's where I really like dialing in, and I'm like, I'm gonna edge on the side of caution if I'm lending money. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I can see maybe you're gonna get that number for it, but I'm not gonna be the guy to test that water with you. But we're in the suburbs, it's like there's usually a little variation. So you just got to be really dialed in the city. It doesn't mean you can't make money there, but I would say learn to flip in the suburbs maybe first, or in Mount Airy or Overbrook, those stable areas, Northeast, Roosevelt, Cotton, all those areas. Those are easy areas. Before you dive into maybe a Point Breeze. And if you went into Point Breeze for Fishtown and you made money and you learned it, that's cool too. You just, it was a little risky maybe going in, then you probably learned a lesson. We stay in the game here, so. One topic of finding deals. You guys want to get into managing or funding or? Funding. Skip the management. Man, management.
No, go to management.
Management's a crazy one. Nobody wants to hear about it, right? Like management's like the redheaded stepchild of real estate.
Hey.
Nobody wants to do it.
That's the guy with the
unfortunately,
red.
it's the least sexy part, but do that wrong. I mean, you gotta do 4 units, right? For 4 unit building. What's that?
Touch on it. Management.
Screw that part up, and all those units are worth nothing to you, right?
The one thing you can't do, they ain't your friend.
It's
They ain't your
unbelievable,
friend.
and it's thankless. But done right, it will keep you you make a lot of money. You make a lot of money if you do it right. We took a very long time in Atlas and in GCS and understanding of the system. This is not just, now if you have 1 unit in a high cash flow area, you probably get away with this in the States. You start getting 20, 30, 40 units, you have an operation you have to attend to. You have 1,500 with 800 owners, right? There is an operation in place. You better be damn sure you're attentive to the each moving part. That's the difference. People underestimate the amount of moving parts in management. And I always recommend, I guess I'll leave you a few tips. I'll kind of go through this quickly, but there's a lot of moving parts. There's water bills, utility bills. What are your policies? Do you have a residential affairs policy? Do you have an accounting department? Accounting department is huge. You're actually really just an accounting company when it comes down to it with some grit. Okay, so you have an accounting department. Who's leasing your properties? What does your turnaround time look like on a vacancy? Do you know who you're going to for an eviction and how long it takes to do an eviction? Do you have what kind of eviction insurance do you use? Do you do your own? These are all the questions a lot of landlords don't ask themselves initially, and they can work their way out of it, right, on one or two properties. Start getting to where this gentleman's range is, and you start to say, like, you've got to have this stuff in place, right? Like, you've got to know this stuff. If you don't know it, you're dead. I remember in 2009, 2010, so we took on a lot of properties after 2008. It was actually not by choice. Our management company grew so fast because there was all these people that accumulated all these properties, over-leveraged, right? You got to also know how to balance the books. Over-leveraged, and you're like, I don't have time for this. I got to go out and get a job. I'm losing my shirt. Boom, here's 25 properties. I'm like, how did you get 25 properties to begin with? Well, the money was so easy to get at the time. They didn't know what they were doing. So you start sinking, right? And you're like, well, now they're 90% leveraged. Okay, what I mean by that is they have 90% of equity stripped out. You go through spurts in your portfolios, like once you get to about 20 properties, I usually tell people, you better have bought right, because the average person's income is not going to sustain a downturn in that portfolio. Meaning, if you're over leveraged and you have even a great paying job, in fact, some of the people I remember, and there was a slew of them, they all came in at the same time, and they all got wiped out at the same time. They just couldn't handle anymore. They had great paying jobs. But it was like, you have 5 evictions on a 20-unit portfolio going on at one time, which is possible. Like, you could just have, this person doesn't pay, that person doesn't pay, 2 of them work for the same place. You have 5 evictions going on. That's going to be 30 days to get your court date, right? And this is all going by above board, right? This isn't going to your house to turn your water off. If you do that, it's not the game I play, right? This is not. You cannot. Yeah.
Can't do that.
What was that again?
So imagine having 5 evictions. So that's at least you have your 30 days initially of waiting for the court date and not paying. 30 more days, most likely after your court date, at least, if you don't get a judgment by agreement, or you don't, it depends. You get a default judgment by agreement. Let's say I got a default judgment, meaning the other person didn't show up, default judgment. Sheriff in Philadelphia, sheriff's going to take another 2 weeks and another 2 weeks, at least 60 days of 5 properties missing rent, 60 times. So you have 5 properties, let's say they're $700 each, that's $3,500 times 2 months, that's $7,000 in one swing that you have no cash flow. I mean, you have a little bit of cash flow, but you're 90% leveraged. You're probably paying that out in other minor repairs that people underestimate every month. It's probably gone. So you really have to say, is my job that's paying me $10,000 a month, which is great, like I got to fork up $7,000 a month for that? That was just for the vacancy. That doesn't include the fact that you now have turnovers that you have to do, which means you're probably, depends on how nice or not nice the tenant was to your property, 1,000 best case scenario. Like, when was the last time you had a turnover for a grand, right? $3,000, $5,000 easy. Per property, $25,000. You ready to strike a check like that? So it's very important that when you start to scale that rental business, you buy low. I really don't recommend aggressive leveraging. Some people do. I don't. It's not.
And you qualify the statement. So what do you call being aggressive with leveraging?
Leveraging to me would be so the national average was always a formula that had worked for us. The national average was 50%. This is if you have mortgages you're dealing with. Some people get to a position where they just have free and clear properties. That's cool. That's real cool. But if you have leverage, 99% of the people that do this initially will have, your principal and interest should be roughly 50% of your rent. Okay? So $800 rent, my principal and interest should be $400. If I'm exceeding that number, then I'm getting into the danger zone of not calculating for like eviction, vacancy, gas, all that stuff.
Is that like the 2% rule?
Similar.
So
it's not really an equity thing for you, it's more cash flow.
Cash flow, for sure.
Because the equity can be 80%, but you can have great cash flow, and so you're still.
Yeah, the equity position comes into play if you ever want to liquidate. But if you find a way to be 80% leverage, but you still fall into that ballpark, which actually right now probably with rates being historically low, you probably can pull that off.
it's doable.
Couldn't do that 8 years ago. What rates at like 4%? I probably could. Yeah.
When you talk 57, you talk about after you purchase, then you'll be
Yeah. Yeah, all in. So I'm all in at $400 a month is what my principal and interest are. My rent better be $800. That means all in as in renovated, fully going, rented, everything. And even at that point, it's not you're getting $400 a month. Like when you back your numbers out, you're probably cash flowing more like $100 or $50 a month per unit. Believe it or not, because all those other expenses they get chewed up that you don't want to admit to. Now, when the portfolio is going well, it's fantastic. It's great. But when that portfolio takes a turn, that's when you have to dig in and say, did I buy right? You'll know if you bought right real quick. Yeah.
So you're saying PI and not TI, and you're not adding any of that stuff into it?
No,
You're just
so principal and interest, so insurance and so forth, taxes, they all, on average, national average, and in this area, in Philadelphia, it works. It's always worked very well for us.
Philly's good.
Taxes especially.
Yeah.
Until about 3 years ago. But no, it calculates for that.
Into that, so your 400 would be PI, TI, all of that, or just
PI.
Okay, got it.
TI is covered on the expenses above it, which then backs out part of those expenses that probably leave you about $50 or $100 real dollars a month.
Got it. Okay.
So that's always. And I'm definitely not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what's worth.
I thought a good rule of thumb is like if you had $200 a door, you're saying that's a scary zone as well.
Yeah.
Per unit. Wow.
Yeah, it works until it doesn't.
But some of the numbers you run, you're barely getting to. You're saying because the market's crazy now. But you're saying even at 2 is a danger zone.
To what?
$200 per door in a unit.
What's your? I mean, just rent for what's the? Like what's the? Give me the numbers. The two numbers. Give me principal and interest versus.
Right. I was just thinking like after you're done paying everything off, you're ended up with $200 positive cash flow at the end of the month.
What I'm saying, yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you back out all the expense, like 200 could work if you backed out all those expenses. What I'm asking, my question to you is, what is your principal and interest, and is your rent double that?
If it's 200 net, you're good.
If it's true net though, like
if it's true net, you're good.
It's got to be like at the end of the year you run your numbers, right? Like how many you go at the end of the year and you're like, oh, I spent this much in gas, I spent this much in attorney's fees, and all these things you thought you were netting an extra $200 a month. You're like, oh no, I didn't net that. I put it in my pocket that month, but then it just went in one pocket out the other. You didn't think about it. So across the board, 45 to 50% is a safe position to be in. Now you can leverage very high. It would work if the cash flow works. The cash flow is everything in your rental business, unless you want to liquidate. If you want to liquidate and you're leveraged at 80%, market takes a 20% hit, you're still holding on to that property, but your cash flow is keeping you.
Now, did you create your own management company software, or did you use like Buildium, or what did you use?
First we used Propertyware. Was the first system we used.
Really?
It's very good. It's very
expensive.
I mean, it depends on units, but but it was robust. And then we switched everything over to Appfolio.
Appfolio.
Yeah, it's like Appfolio is like the iPad of property management.
Appfolio is a minimum of $200 a month, but it's $1 a unit.
$1 a unit.
So if you get over that, it's $1 a unit.
Is that what you guys use?
Yeah, we use Appfolio. I mean, the leases go out in Appfolio, everything else happens, a whole bit. The real issue on all of this, and he's right about that, is that the one thing you can't do is to net your buddies. And everybody, when they get in the cash flow problem, if the tenant just pays me, let me give him a little more time. Let me tell you something, they're not your buddies. Okay, so we have a situation, you have 5 days grace period, 6th day you get notice, 10th day we're in court.
Yep.
No question. No question. And I'll tell you what, if in one case I got 100 units together at one spot, all the tenants talk to each other, that's a lot easier to manage than the individual units because those tenants don't talk to each other, so they don't know exactly how you are. So it's a relationship that goes on.
It's true. So a lot of people ask that question, which is really good, which is like, I always found that if the more consistent you are with your tenants, the more fair it actually is than not. Good, bad, or indifferent, the more consistency you provide to your tenant, the better it is for your tenant. Because if your tenant doesn't know what to expect from you, we're negotiating and it's a game. And now you're creating this awful, toxic relationship back and forth. But if it's on the first day rent is due, by the 5th day you have your grace period by law, the 6th day you receive your pay or quit notice, this is happening like clockwork.
The other side is, remember this, your tenant is living month to month. They really don't have a lot of cash, right? So they think good. I mean, I got an $800 a month rent, if I fall behind it. They can never make it up. I mean, literally, you're doing them a favor. If you make them pay on time, they'll have a house, they'll have a roof over their head and the rest. They will invariably, and I've had this over the years, they'll come in and they go, I owe you $600, I'll pay you next week. Then you ask the next question. And then most guys will go, okay, that's great. You ask the next question. What's your net take home next week? $400. How are you going to pay me $600 when you only got $400? I mean, they will do anything to drag that out. So you're not doing them any favors. And I've saved a lot. Honestly, I've saved a lot of tenants from having a problem by simply saying, "You need to pay me on time." That tenant remains and lasts and works it out.
I agree. I mean,
does.
we see, hundreds and hundreds of evictions we've seen over the years, and that is the case. That is definitely the case. You're consistent with them, they're consistent with you, and you stay to what the lease says. That's what you signed. I know it's going to be tempting to take that $600 and take it in a different way. Oh yeah, pay me that cash. You're just entering a world of chaos.
You're training them to do that.
You're training a different way. I don't want to say tricks. I love the tenants. We love them. They love us. It's a very good relationship because it's our responsibility as landlords to set that relationship up properly. You're setting the rules, so don't go outside your own rules. It's not fair to the tenants either. Okay, you got to really understand that. And they're tough times. I mean, I've seen lockouts on Christmas Eve. No kidding.
Question.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
So what, this is because you're licensed. What are you using a par lease on your personal rentals, or what are you using?
I've done both. I mean, honestly, a lease. There's only a few things in a lease you really need to have, and the real thing you need to have, and depending if you're going to defend your own lease, but good counsel. We have the best. I always use the best attorney in the city. That guy. He could be a napkin. I'm not kidding. One of the best in the business.
Napkin lease.
Yeah. I mean, half the time it's like a verbal lease. Like, I have an owner that hasn't had a lease in 10 years. They'll get it done.
Yeah, the other side is document. Whatever you do, there's no phone calls to the tenant. There's no emails to the tenant. Document. Send a document. Make sure if you send the tenant that you tell them that if they don't respond, it'll be that way. Make sure you document everything. Period. You go to court, the court is going to lean towards the tenant every single time.
Yeah.
So they always look at you as the bad landlord. So you have to document and make sure it's clear.
You got to be polished when you go.
Honestly, if you use a system like Appfolio, they'll give you the forms. They can actually suggest the forms and the other stuff. They're not your friends. Make sure you document. I've had tenants owe me $100 on the 10th day. We still go to court. Because I always have the right to waive the fee for court.
Right.
Okay, if I want to. But as soon as you let the tenant know that they can get it, it's amazing. It's just amazing how it just rolls. It just rolls.
So you're talking on the 6th day late, you're filing for eviction.
On the 6th day, we're notifying on the 6th, but on the 10th we're filing, on the 10th we file. I don't give a damn, we file on the 10th.
But that's to help train them as well, so they know to pay.
Oh, I'll tell you what, in the big complex, they'll talk to other tenants, the other tenants say, listen, you go talk to these guys, they'll work with you, they'll listen to you.
Right.
If you try to snake it, they'll nail you to the wall. I'm running 97% occupancy, so.
Nice.
And the tenants stay, so it's the way it works.
Do you ever collect a judgment when you win?
We file the judgments. I also own a repossession company and some investigators, so they can find these people. The issue I can tell you is that in most cases, the ones that can't pay you, and especially the ones that don't manage their money, they don't learn later. They never manage your money. They're usually gone. So it doesn't pay you to run up a big bill. You won't get it.
Nah.
You want to get, if you can get out of that, if you can get them out in the lease time and you can get the security money out, that's your best bet.
Yeah.
And after that, it's just file it, leave it on file, because if they go for judgments, it obviously keeps coming up. Eventually, sometimes you get somebody to call you because they have straightened out their act and they want to get it done. You can, on some occasions, say to them, hey, listen, you owe me $200, give me $100 and you'll go away. You get part of it, you wipe it out. But most of the time, no.
So after you win the judgment, you file it? You have to file
It's all filed, it's all on record. It goes, it's not a hard thing to do. You can renew them every 5 years if you want, but literally if they're not trying to buy a house or anything else within 5 years, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, it's dead money. I would say you're just chasing dead money. The faster you can get on with it, the better. Like, don't think because they owe you 10 grand, you're getting 10 grand. It ain't happening. It's not happening.
So hit with
Hey,
the
quick question.
financing, because how does it work with like buying whole people? Because I know you're hard money, right?
So, all right. So, jump into financing.
Hey, before you go into that,
It's 8 o'clock.
All right. I'll jump into financing. Does everybody want to be a landlord now?
I do.
Make a lot of money doing it. I'm not talking about retiring and putting his grandkids. You make a lot of money, but you got to have a stomach for it. And we see a lot of stories. 1,500 units with 800 clients and owners. You see a lot of different stuff. We've seen news before that gunshot shows up. It's one of our tenants. We've seen, I had a lady You're done recording? You're still recording. We had a lady that I got a phone call one night in East Falls, in a very nice spot in East Falls. Owner would not get rid of this lady. He said, look, this lady can't be here. You gotta keep her. Got a phone call one night. Lady ran down the stairs. She got caught in a love triangle. Okay? Ran down the stairs, up to the corner of Ridge Avenue, and the guy had slid her from ear to ear. She kneeled down, her head fell off backwards. You ready to be a landlord? I mean, that's...
You need all that information.
I've been threatened.
Hey, at least it would happen outside the house.
I had a guy follow me one night. I used to be, I don't know, I was 25, and I would have like, I would puff my chest, and then you start having these arguments with people you shouldn't be having arguments with, and I don't know, I was just young and stupid. I'm still young, but and less stupid, but I'd have those fights, and I said, you have them over and over and over, and one's gonna get you, right? And this was the last time I said in our office that we're fighting anybody. There's no more fighting. You follow the lease, that's it. Because one night I was meeting somebody to do a similar presentation way back when. This guy called me up and he was being a big kid. He was MFing me to the hills. So I went back at him and he goes, you need to let me in the basement and I'll get out. I go, you need to give me my $8,000, whatever it was, and you can have whatever you want in the basement. I knew you had drugs down there. I knew what kind of person I was dealing with. And then I said, 3, 2, 1, I hung the phone on. Didn't think anything of it. I've had this conversation 100 times. Later that week, I ended up going to Mannion Brewing Company. Similar type presentation thing, whatever, goes fine, I come back. Later, 2 days later, my partner is on the stairs, knew this guy's name. There's a guy walking down the stairs, my partner says, hey, can I help you? The guy says, hey, my name is such and such. My partner's like, oh shit. So we knew that, he said, hey, you're gonna have to leave, you can't be here. The guy was like, I just want you to know, I had a van follow me and Walsh to the Mannion Brewing Company at when I was there, white van followed me, and they made a phone call and said, do you want us to pick him up? I was like, no more fighting in our office. That was it. So I knew I got followed in a van for a conversation that meant nothing. My ego was squashed at that moment. So that was it. I literally am not, very rare to catch me fighting with somebody because it's not worth it.
On a rental property, and there's multiple units, maybe you can answer as well. What do you do about bed bugs?
So they used to have DDT, but they outlawed it. So
what's that?
It used to be a chemical that EPA stepped in on. Yeah, they actually used to work. Now that's why they're back or they're around or whatever. So the true way to do it is you actually heat the house to 150 degrees and wrap it.
No, I'm meaning on the stand, on something where the tenant on the first floor never told you anything, but you get that call on the second or third floor, and you find out the infestation was on the first floor.
It's a tough one, man. It's really tough to pin that down. So one thing, so our policy is typically if you don't have bugs within 30 days of the beginning, you brought them out.
Right. Put it in the lease.
How the hell are you?
I mean, but it's a multi-unit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, honestly, there are some things that we put a judgment call on, depending on the tenant we're dealing with, depending on the scenario, depending on what we think. You're just making a human judgment call at that point. It's like, you brought this, you gotta go, whatever it may be. Tactically speaking, as much as I just said follow the policy, I'm going to make a judgment call at that point. It doesn't happen as much anymore with bed bugs, but bed bugs can be nasty. So honestly, it's a judgment call when I'm going to charge the tenant, be like, you're going to pay this, or I know you brought this in, but it's really hard. It's like somebody flushes something down the toilet in a multi-unit building, and you want to charge them.
You can't pin it.
So you're like, I want to charge you, but I can't. I usually like to say if I can validate, if the window broke and the glass is on the outside of the house, I know you broke the window from the inside to outside. I know you did it. If it broke from outside to inside, I can't prove that you did. So I like to say, is there very clear evidence that you did some intentional damage or something to damage the house? That's a hard one.
Okay.
How do you guys handle that? What do you do?
But basically, we charge them for it.
You charge
if we catch them, we tell them we'll clear it out and charge them. But I don't know. I only run leases 1 year long the first year. After that, they all go month to month with 2 calendar months notice. So if I have a problem, I push them out real quick.
It's a smart landlord. Does anybody know why do you do that month to month? I know
easier to.
I do month to month because if you go to court, a lot of people think, oh, I got a 1 year lease. I'll go to court. They skip in 2 months. The court will give you a hard time. First of all, you got to leave it empty. You can't really rent it. They hold you accountable for doing it. So, and the other side is if somebody skips, I really don't have a hard time going to court and saying I want 2 months rent or anything like that. I can get it almost immediately while I'm still right? Trying to re-rent it. I do the first year because it gives me a chance. We inspect the apartments or the houses after 6 months. We make sure that the condition are there, and you can tell pretty quickly if you go in for an inspection, that's it. All our leases require that if there's a repair, you call us for a repair, we have the right to go in at any time we want.
Yeah.
Like an idiot. When I first started in the business, I used to say, "We'll accommodate you. Tell me when you're home." Well, they're all home at 8 o'clock at night, and they want their maintenance guy there at 6 in the morning, and so you learn very quickly. But pretty much that's the way it works.
So there's I think one of the reasons you just said, landlords think they have this. I want to have a 4-year lease with my tenant. You don't. Here's why. Because if a tenant wants to leave, no matter if they have a 100-year lease or a 1-year lease, they're gone. They're leaving. What you do get, and I'm sure I don't know if this is one of the reasons you might do it. Our attorney's the best. Was like a landlord that has a month to month has 2 reasons they can evict. One is guaranteed, the other is not. So non-payment of a month you can evict based on, but they can also at times they can make up that month later in the month and make the balance whole. So you go to the judge and you go, he owes me $1,000 and he paid me the day before. Judge says, "You're good. Get out of here." That means that lease is now still binding. Now it's not always the case; you're still wasting him out. But if you're on month to month, you can evict based on termination of time. There's no argument of time. I've now evicted you so you filed the eviction based on non-payment and time. Meaning I had a 1-month lease, so you can't change time. So our attorney said, if you put that in there, you go month-to-month lease, there's literally nothing you can do. You have tenants that, they pay and they pay and pay, you want to get them out because they're dealing drugs in their place. How do I get them out? They're paying me. It's very hard to fix somebody that's not, that's paying on time. It's very difficult to do that. There are ways to do it for sure, but time is one that you can't fail.
I also do the 2 for 2 months because in the normal course when people are leaving and they're doing it decently, you need unless you have you need a couple of months in order to get the proper tenant in and screen them and you have that chance because as soon as they give us notice, we have the right to show. So basically, we have the right to go in and show with convenience. So immediately we can start the rental, and that gives you. And I do 2 calendar months because I learned a long time ago when it says 30 days or 60 days, and they give you notice, you're now counting all over the place. 2 calendar months is 2 calendar months.
That's
it's
a
a
good
full
way to
calendar month.
Simple, efficient. I like that. So yeah, there's a man who survived a few. I like to see you've been in a few cycles, right? Real estate there. Yeah, so those are usually. I always tell people when you're talking to people, like guys that have been around 2 and 3 and 4 cycles of real estate. Those are people you want to talk to. These are people that survive things that other people were not able to. The best advice I've ever gotten from people have always come from people that have been in and out of multiple cycles. And like, how did you see 2008? How did you see that coming? Right? It was on the wall. Dogs were getting mortgages. Didn't make sense.
Can I ask you a question? You think we're at the top of the cycle and we don't know what's going to happen?
I definitely think
Stupid question.
Yeah, well, that's not stupid. It's only stupid when you look back. You're like, I should have seen it. You never know, right?
But we are there. We just don't know how long it's going to last.
How close, right? How close?
I'm going to add something because he comes from a different area. You talk about 50% and being, and you have a tendency when you're getting money to do it. But I also said that I have a repo company. Right? We run in the 5-county area. We're starting to see right now an increase in the number of cars we're repossessing, the failure rate, and everything else. When I tell you that we did almost 800 repossessions last month in a 5-county area, that's what's going on. So there's a lot.
Versus, like, what was the low? What was the low of that? 200?
Excuse me?
Like, what will be like a low month for you in that capacity?
Well, right now we've been running that on an increase because we've invested in the company. But the amount of repossessions and the assignments, what we call assignments, that are coming out in the 5-county area are really significant. And that's going on in a lot of areas over the country.
6 months ago, it was what, approximately?
6 months ago, we might have been doing 400 or 500. But there's a double thing going there. We're expanding the company. Well, all I'm telling you is that based on assignment volume, the number of repossessions that are going on, we're seeing a lot more in that particular area. And it's going on across the country. And I've been around long enough to tell you that we saw that once before.
So there you go. Now, he's not saying because of cars the economy crashes. What he's saying is there's a sign on the wall that he's starting to see. It doesn't mean everything's going to crash, but he's starting to say, like, there's a weakening in the system.
It's not a time to take it. I mean, there's exactly what you say. There's always deals. There's always potential.
Yeah.
But if anything looks too good to be true, or you want to extend yourself, this is not the time to do it.
It's not the moment to go. It's not the moment to be a cowboy in the market. Right. Don't do it. Really is never time to do that. But that's a really good point. You just play it conservatively. The best guys buy at the bottoms and they sell at the tops. And like I have so many guys that I know for their 2 and 3 real estate cycles that have not bought deals in quite some time. They're like, I'm not paying that. I know that's not a deal. These are guys that sit on the sidelines and know what they're doing, and they're like, it's hard for these guys to be disciplined because they're used to buying deals for 8 years, 7 years, and they're like, no, like my discipline keeps money in my pocket, and that's a big deal. And certain signs start to come up. People aren't making payments. You know, they can't make one payment, they can't make 2 payments. So I'm not saying be scared. I'm lending money. I'm lending a lot of money, but I'm always in a very hedged position.
Are you lending less money now that you think we're at the?
No, I'm lending at a more adjusted position. So I'll still do my deals, but I need to see, like, I'll just lend less money on a property. Like, if I see a comp, for instance, I'm prepared for a 20 or 30% hit in the market. So if I see, all right, I'll get into lending. You want to hear about lending? So lending is, I do lending for construction and acquisition financing typically. If you want to fix and you want to flip a house, I'm usually the guy that I'm getting the phone call to do that. I'll look at it, guys in Springfield Valley, for what I do. When I tell you I'm going to do it, we're going to do it. I'm going to tell you that day I'm in or I'm out. You say I like the numbers, they look good. I'm typically 65% ARV that I see, depending on the type deal, depending on if it's a single family house, a condo, and so forth. But if I like the numbers, I'll fund the construction and acquisition. I'll close it within 5 days or less, I'll do 2 or 3 days. I don't care. I'm looking at the asset primarily. I do want to know who I'm dealing with. Yeah, I'm going to look at your credit. But I've done deals with guys at a 500 credit score. I did a deal with a guy that, a 500 credit score, but he got killed in 2008. But he was extremely good at executing what he was doing and how to get in and out very quickly. So that is the primary function of what I focus on. I guess why I'm here tonight. So I usually tell people this is not a bank. This is not like I don't need your W-2s. I don't need your tax returns. You're investors. You probably know how to make your money not look as lucrative at the end of the year because you're an investor, and that's what you do. I get it. I'm not here to look through that. I'm in the game, so I understand what the market's doing. I'm not a banker, even though it's hard money bankers. I'm not a banker that sits behind a desk that then underwrites you and says, "Oh, your DNA doesn't look good. You're 700 credit score, not 700." It's not like that. Yeah, I got business cards. So that's my function. So I understand when I'm looking at an asset, what I'm looking at. When you call me up and say, I want to look at this. Now, I can tell you so we do, 25, 30 deals a month lending. Our company-wide, I have 2 partners in Maryland. We deploy about, I think we deployed like 40 million last year or something like that. We probably said no to 10 times, no, more than that. So 30 times that amount of deals I look at before I like a deal. So I'll say no 29 times before I say yes once. It's funny, that didn't work out that way, it just happened to work out that way in terms of other deals. Typically, when you're wholesaling, 20 or 30 leads turns into a deal. Typically, when you're flipping, you'll see 20 or 30 good houses. Now, that can range. But that number in this industry, for whatever reason, whether it's lending, management, whatever, not management, flipping, wholesaling, tends to be 20 or 30 leads. That's the deal. So most people come to me, and I'm more cautious with how much money I'm putting out in a deal right now. I want to know, do I have a guy that can get himself out of a situation? Our notes are 12 months long. So, do you have the ability to execute?
Are you looking at the credit more closer now because of this?
Nah. But you're looking at the deal, so you're almost maybe helping them too.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
if you can't get a hard money lender to finance it, probably not a deal.
I don't like speaking high rate, but say it's not a good deal. It's almost
so a lot of guys come to me. I mean, it's probably like 5 or 6 of them in the inbox right now. They're like, hey, what do you think about this? I usually don't tell you what I think the end value is because there might be other things going through my head. And I'll tell you how to present yourself to a hard money lender to make it right. But a lot of guys say, what do you think of this deal, what do you think of that deal? I'll just say yes, no, pass, yes. And when I'm saying pass, it's not because I don't want you to make money. I'm actually saving you money. I'm seeing something that you might not see. It doesn't mean I'm right. I'm not always right. I've had guys, I'm like, you're not going to get 285 for that. Boom, he gets 285. I was wrong. Great. But I wasn't going to be in a position to say, I wasn't taking the chance for some reason on that deal. So I at least act as a sounding board for a lot of guys. And I don't claim to always be right. I just have to be firm on my position and be ready to have I just have to know that I'm in a position. I can't be on the wrong side of wrong, right? I can't. Because if I'm too high on a property, that's the worst case hard money lender can be in. It's the wrong over leverage on a property. It is the worst thing that can happen. We take back very few properties as well because we do such a good job at deciding which deals we're going to work at. I mean, significantly less than a bank because of the underwriting. Other lenders, as this market starts to turn, you're going to watch our game. So the lenders that survive this coming turn are the ones that people will call and be like, oh my gosh, you have money. Like, it's not like, hey, what are your rates? We're this. There's other guys out there. There are lenders that get wiped clean off the map. This happened last time in 2008. So we take a different position, but we aggressively lend still, for sure. If I like what I said, we'll move on. Yeah.
Are you funding on buy and hold or just flips?
So my flip threshold, the stuff that I like to be in. So the end game for a flip, or what I like, is a 12-month exit. A 12-month exit is a first-time home buyer. That's what I'm really looking at. So I generally speaking, most times like to be in this area, $120,000 or higher for the ARV, which is after repair value. That's what I like. Meaning, that's usually at least going to be a first-time home buyer. Now, that's just a gauge, because when I go in the MLS, I can see all that stuff. I can decide if I'm in an area like that. Which then kind of sometimes knocks buy and hold guys out, because they're like, I don't really want to buy something that's going to be worth 120. It's not going to cash flow the way I want it. Not always the case. I'll have guys that might have like an 8 or 10 unit building where they have a bunch of surrounding single families at 120,000. I'm comfortable in that area. It keeps me in and out of areas I don't want to be in. There's no hard rule to that. That's just me knowing the market and where I'm comfortable and it seems to work.
What do you consider as opposed to the acquisition and repair costs and the AVR? Like, what's the percentage there?
So we go up to 65% of the max loan. That's what we'll go up to, depending on what I see the ARV is and a couple other things. But like a common deal, buy at 60, somewhere between 60 and 65, put 40, 45 in, and go out for like 145, 150.
So the percentage there would be about 30 to 40% difference.
I'd lend on 90. I'd lend about 90, 95 on that. Probably what I'd be, depending on the guy, depending on what the deal with. I mean, so all right. So now you want to present yourself to a hard money lender properly. Here are the secret tips and tricks. So think of it this way: a true hard money lender. No, so you have two kinds. You have kinds like me, which I don't know anybody else like. There's a couple guys in the area that maybe, but we're a little different. We're super easy to work with. I mean, I'm not gonna put anybody else in this room, but I hope everybody can say we're easy to work with. So we like to look at the deal. I'm gonna tell you I like the asset. I'm gonna move on. That's it. That's the process. It is that easy. People go, that's how it's gonna be true. That's how it is. But if I don't like your deal, I'm just gonna tell you no. The other end of a hard money lender is you're actually being institutionally being underwritten by an institutionally funded company, which means a bank came in the back end. The rates are so crazy right now. Banks come in the back end. They're trying to deploy money with other hard money lenders. So they're like, here's $100 million. Go deploy this. Wow, it sounds fantastic. The problem is you have pressure to deploy it because you're not deploying $100 million. They're going to say this isn't worth it for us. Like that's the kind of level banks are at, right? They're like, we need $100 million a month out. Then you have guys underwriting who don't know the market, so they're putting out bad loans with pressure behind them. Two dangerous things in a market. And those guys, though, they think they're hard money lenders, but the buck doesn't stop with the guy you're probably talking to. Unfortunately, it has to be underwritten by the bank behind them. You're like, wait a minute, you're a hard money lender. Why do I have to send you W-2s, my tax returns, and this?
Is that the red flag?
That would be
the rest of W-2s.
Probably how you tell the difference between an institutionally backed and a privately backed. We're private. We're private funds.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty good, clear indication. If you're like, this seems like I'm being underwritten by a bank. You probably are. If you're like, but if the guy can tell you the same day, look at it and say, yep, that's happening, you're probably not. And that's what you want to deal with in this. It's not worth, if you wanted the hassle of being underwritten like a bank, then you would have gone to a bank. That's,
I don't want to throw you off a game here, but you like first-time home buyers because why? There's more of them?
That's the exit, right? I have to have an exit from my loan. So from a landlord, so the time credit does come into play with me is when, if you're going to buy and hold, I have to know in 12 months you have a clear exit. So if you're not 680 plus bankable and you're a 600 credit score, I don't have a clear exit. I don't want your house. Come to believe it, I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want it. So there's ways I can get creative. There's people I can put you in touch with. There's lots of different things to do to make sure that sets up right. When we enter that loan, somebody signed on that loan has to be in that position to be bankable on the buy and hold exit. That's going to be an area where I know there's going to be a lot of rentals. In a flip, though, the credit's not as important because I know there's a clean exit with first-time home buyers. There's a lot of first-time home buyers that want that. I know you're in and out in 12 months. So from a lender's perspective, we're always looking at what the exit is. So we say no, it's just like there's not a clear exit, there's not a good deal. It's like, somebody says, hey, where I usually find the miss, quite frankly, is most people don't comp right. They think a house is worth twice what it's worth, and I'm lending, I'm like, sure, I'll give you $100,000 here. And they're like, well, I thought you were going to give me 65%. I'm like, and this isn't for all, because there's other factors that actually come into play here. So, and it'll cause a big gap in cash to close. Meaning, I'm like, sure, I'll give you $100,000. You're going to bring $200,000 to the table, and I have first position. That sounds like a good deal to me, right? So they're like, well, that doesn't make sense. So that's not always how it works. Now, the way to make sure you're getting the maximum number from your lender, if you're dealing with a true hard money lender, is to do this. Oh, the other thing is if they have an appraisal, if they're doing an appraisal, unless it's like a big commercial piece or something outside, they probably are not a hard money lender. We don't do appraisals. Like, I have to make the decision myself. I have to say, that is what I'm doing. I'll have somebody go out and inspect the house to make sure it's there. I don't give a damn what his number comes back at. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I have to make the decision. So in the event you're getting an appraisal, you're probably...
Is it just you or making the decision, or do you have other people? You're the man. And you're something. Okay.
Yeah, so I do this up here, then my business partner does it in Maryland, and then we have another guy, another business partner that plays Tetris with all the money and connects all of it. So, and then we have an accountant, we have processors, we have a bunch of people in the office, but that's the deal, yeah. So, okay, so now you're presenting yourself to a hard money lender. Assume that you've met somebody like me, and you want to make sure I'm going to give you the biggest number, right? That's the key. You want to get the most numbers so you can get the least amount of skin in the deal. There's a couple factors. Things that scare a hard money lender, or me, condominiums can scare me. Condominiums is the first thing to take a dip in a market that's turning. Okay, HOAs are a huge factor. Can they get conventional financing on the back end? So instead of being at like 65 cents on the dollar,
Homeowners Association.
They're managing money. Well, they have 20% more delinquent. Okay, now the FHA doesn't want to finance them, and now your exit strategy we go back to is not as strong, right? So you got to know that condo you're looking at, right? So I might go up to 50% on a condo or something like that, or whatever it may be.
Hey, Ian, we're gonna stop in like 5 minutes.
Got it. I'll teach you. All right, I'll finish with this. So you want to get the most amount of money from a hard money lender. Know what you're talking about when you call. I don't care that you're a first-time buyer. That doesn't matter to me. I want to know that you're going to send me the comps. I'm sorry, you're going to send me don't send me the comps. You're going to send me the construction numbers, the address, and the acquisition price. I'd like to know what you think the property is going to be worth, not because I actually care what you think it's going to be worth, but because I want to see if you know your market. Right. I want to know that if my number is close enough to your number, you at least did enough due diligence up front to say, I know my market a little bit. If we're way apart, red flag, 65% just went to 60%. Okay, next question is, hey, how are your construction numbers? I know you should be between 45 and 60 in here if you have the right contractor. You just told me it's 20. So without you knowing my percentage is dropping, you want to present yourself in a way that you know the deal in front of you. If you know the deal and we believe in it, you just the only thing is you're not going to know if that percentage is dropping. Unless you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, you're only giving me 10%. I really screwed up this presentation. So that's how it works. That's how we fund, and that's all I got. And so I think we're good. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank everybody for coming out. I mean, this is time of the night. If anybody has a deal that they would like to bring to the group, a wholesale deal, or look for an opportunity, talk about it now. Not, you guys are free to network. Good night. Thanks for coming out. Keep in mind, there's going to be a webinar. It's going to be on February 16th, and the main meeting is February 23rd in Ambler.